Everybody, I'm Stacey with Stacey's Organizing and Decorating for Life, or StaceyForLife.com. I'm here to help you organize your thoughts and decorate your perspectives. So today's topic is going to be about feelings. We're going to talk about flight, fight, or even freeze mode, and we're also going to talk about the insanity of reacting with all of that again, and we're going to talk about a solution, a solution that provides integrity to all the parties involved. We're going to talk about unlearning learned behaviors. So if you like that's our topic today, please hit the like and subscribe button below. So first I'll get started. This theory is the theory of emotion by Walter Cannon, is where this flight, fight, or freeze mode came from. And what it deals with also is it talks about how your adrenaline gets going or your cortisol gets going. So there's all this scientific stuff, and you can look that up. That's not what this video is about, though. This is the scientific part, because as I've told y'all before, I'm not a scientist and I'm not a psychologist. I'm a person who has experienced this stuff myself, and I also help other people. People call me and I talk them off the ledge, so to speak, so that they don't make a decision that's not going to be in alignment with their integrity. So that's what we're going to explain today, is when we go into flight or fight mode, of course that's the adrenaline part, and what happens is that when we go into fight mode, we're already ready to defend ourselves for something, that may or may not be a big deal. And then when we go into flight mode, we are, upset with somebody, and so they may have left the house and we're just planning on leaving. Now, if you're in an abusive situation, I encourage you, by all means, you have to do this. You have to just leave and not tell the person. So this isn't applying to people who are in an abusive situation. This is applying to people who are just, have a tendency to second guess themselves, and, they may, run off, come back, run off, and come back. And that's the definition of insanity, when people continue to do that rather than dealing with their feelings. They wait till they cool off, then they come back. But I'm just suggesting as part of the solution that we can develop skills and tools that can enable us to cool off without making these rash decisions and hurting another person and continuing to act the same way and expect different results. We claim that we want certain things, but we have to be willing to do the things to get it. And they take less energy than going back on our old behaviors and things that we learned. So I'm going to read you something, because as you know, I told you a few weeks ago I'm reading 3 books. Actually, now I'm reading 4. But there's something in The New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. So I'm going to read that to you if you're not understanding and this isn't making perfect sense. Because what happens is that we have a PTSD response to these things. And this is where it comes from. This is Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth, and he says, highly sensitive children are particularly affected by their parents' pain bodies. Having to witness their parents' insane drama causes almost unbearable emotional pain, and so does often these sensitive children who grow into adults with heavy pain bodies. So when I'm talking these people off the ledges, they're dealing with this thing, is they don't know how to react. It's unfortunate that in our schools and everything else, we're taught we're happy, we're sad, things are good, they're bad, but that's pretty limited. So I'm hoping that things are going to become more expansive, because when we look for solutions, they'll be more clearer to how we're going to get there if that happens. And that's why I try to provide these videos for you all, is to help you understand that you are not alone in this. There's people that write about this kind of stuff all the time. So when we go into this, we hurt people with our words when we go into the fight mode. We hurt people with our actions when we go into the flight mode. And then when we freeze, we hurt other people, but we hurt ourselves too. So all of these reduce our immune system, which is not a good thing, especially at this time. However, with everybody being cooped up, or people that are cooped up with each other, some people are alone and they're going through their own thing too. But the people that are cooped up in houses, living with people, of course, living with a person on the best terms can be hard sometimes. But when you're living back with these pain bodies, and you're dealing with these pain bodies, because trust, people were calling me with this issue before this thing come, where we're, isolated and stuff. It's something that's gone on and will go on, because like he says, until we break that cycle of these pain bodies, nothing's going to change till it changes. That's why when people are going through this, that's what I have to tell them is, after they finish telling me, they call me and they tell me what happened. And then I tell them, okay, I know that it seems like it's going to last forever, because unless they're willing to change, the person who is calling me is willing to change, then it's not going to change, because the other person isn't calling me. They're probably not calling anybody, but, and so you have to, break the cycle yourself. Somebody can't break the cycle for you. I've learned through all my stuff that nobody is going to save you. You have to save yourself. I mean, there are people that are willing to help you. They will give you the guidelines, just like I'm doing, and just like people do for me. They tell me how to do stuff, but I have to do it. So that's what I'm trying to help you with. So when people call me and they aren't sure what they need to do, they're not clear, they're upset, they're pissed off. First off, we have to get them to breathe after they tell me what's going on. We get them to breathe, and I get to tell them, no, this isn't going to last forever. What has happened here is that it's, PTSD, it's a trigger, it's a pain body. A trigger is a refelt feeling, and I explain to them, this isn't the first time you felt this way. Sometimes they can be upset, like I said, over something that could be small or it could be big. Sometimes it needs to be defended, sometimes it don't. But we haven't learned the skills maybe to be able to defend it, so it's important that we calm down. So on the fourth book that I'm reading is Meet Me at the Table by Sanni. She's a wonderful and inspiring person. She's very, giving, and she resonates, a beautiful essence. So if you have a chance to watch her on Saturday morning, she does a group coaching session that's free for everybody. I posted it last week. I'll probably post it again this week. So you could join us, and if you're trying to make a decision and direction in your life that's career motivated, or even just get motivated, period. Do something different. Because that's what this is about when we unlearn learned behaviors, is we're doing something different. So what she says in her book, Meet Me at the Table, is we're going to talk about neuroplasticity. And neuros means that it's stuck in your mind, and what it is neuroplasticity is the ability of the human brain to experience lifelong change and rewire itself as a result of learning a new material and experiencing new events. So you have to be willing to do that. Nobody can do that for you. So how do you do that, right? I mean, how do we do that? First off, like I said, I hope you have a sponsor, a life coach, a clergy, somebody else you can call, a therapist, somebody else you can call that can get you out of that situation, because sometimes it's with those family members that have the pain bodies. Sometimes it's, that pain body that's going into another person, that we've done it every time. That's why it seems like it's going to last forever, because we just keep on projecting it and projecting it. The projector keeps playing, and until we rewire ourselves, unlearn that stuff, then it's not going to change. That's why it seems like it'll go on forever, but it doesn't have to. Nope. So how are you going to do that? When I taught karate, little kids and stuff, and I would tell them when they got upset, because they had to bring their report cards to us, and so I would tell them when they got upset that you need to take 10 deep breaths before you react to anybody or anything, So that's what I do with people after they tell me what's going on and stuff. Then we start to, before we close, before the whole thing's over, we're going to take deep breaths. Sometimes we're going to pray, because oftentimes they don't even know how to meditate. And meditate's even reaching a higher consciousness, and we're not going to get into that right now. But breath is so important for our life, because once they start breathing, they aren't stuck in that fear, because what brings on this flight, fight, or, freeze is a fear response. It's from fear. And it can be healthy if you're running and dodging a car or a wild animal or something like that, but it's not healthy when somebody disagrees with you. And oftentimes that's what brings this on, is that somebody says something to us and we're not in a good mood, or somebody disagrees with us and and they're adamant with their disagreement, and we don't realize what our choices are and how to set those boundaries. And so we go into this mode and it just doesn't change. So that's why I say it's important that you get somebody outside of yourself to help you learn how to set boundaries, to help you learn how to communicate better, because in our families of origin, sometimes we didn't learn that communication, and we didn't learn it in school either, and everybody did the best that they could. That's why it's such a heavy ingrained pattern and hard to break, and you have to unlearn it, because even when I was in school, you learned good, bad, happy, sad. You didn't learn, that if I feel rejected, I need to learn how to feel accepted. How do I get to do that? And so hence why I think a lot of us ended up in addiction and things like this, is we just sought for something outside of ourselves to make us feel better, because our parents were our gods when we were born and stuff like that. And then when we just don't know. So then we get out there and we start making people our gods, and relying on them. Even if we think that we intellectually have a connection with our God, unless we're in the present moment, if we're in fear, we're not in our connection with our God or higher power or whatever your Zen mode, whatever it is you want to be in, and I'm not making fun, because trust, I've got an eclectic, we all know I have an eclectic place, but so it's like coming to that balance once again, is being able to be accepting, but yet reject what we don't need. And that's how we learn to be more expansive and learn how to communicate better with people. So first, when we do this, after we've calmed our breathing down, we need to acknowledge, if you take those 10 deep breaths, and hopefully that will do it. And when I say 10 deep breaths, it's like, it's not rapid deep breaths. It's 10 deep breaths. And you'll find if you do that, then you're able to calm down some and make rational decisions. Because that's why people keep repeating the same thing, is then they second guess themselves. If they make an irrational decision, they go back and, they'll leave and go back when they go into flight. When they fight, they'll apologize, then do it again. And when they go into freeze, they just keep contracting, contracting, contracting until they don't even know themselves anymore. So people aren't identifying with themselves at all. Everybody's identifying with the outside world and what they think that it is. But it's about getting inside. So how you're going to do that is to realize, one, after you breathe, is acknowledging, am I in flight, fight, or freeze mode? And then two is you're going to, I want to make sure, respect. It's about respecting that other person. This is how you come to a place of integrity. Because when we go into flight, fight, or freeze mode, we aren't respecting the other person and we aren't respecting ourselves. So it's about respecting. So how can you respect that other person? Even if they've done something outlandish, it doesn't give you the right to act in a terrible way, a disrespectful way. You can, and sometimes people will, and you can later forgive yourself and forgive them or not. Sometimes we forgive people but not their actions. So I'm not saying to be a doormat, because you can forgive somebody and not their actions. That's going to be the healthy thing to do. Is that you may find, because we'll get into problem solving in a minute, but so after we do the acknowledging, am I in flight, fight, or freeze mode, then we go to a place of respect. We're going to respect ourselves and the other person, because once we've done that breathing, we're calm. We're calmed down. We're in the present moment. So how do I respect somebody in the present moment? And the third thing is the process. So it's feeling those feelings that you didn't want to feel. Because when you get in defense mode, you're thinking somebody's saying something about you and you don't want to feel that way. But you already have that feeling to be able to acknowledge that feeling. Unless they're berating you, and that sometimes happens, and that's a whole different thing. But even with somebody's berating you, you have a choice whether you're going to take part in that or not. And you can go to your room, you dismiss yourself from that situation. Nobody needs to be berated, So it's learning how to set those boundaries, so that you can do the process. That's why I say also to have a life coach, therapist, sponsor, or clergy that you can talk to, because sometimes we need help with those processes. That's why people call me, is they need to be talked down. When people call me and they're wanting to leave, I don't want them to just leave unless it's an abusive situation and not have integrity. And integrity would be being able to communicate with the other person, saying, this isn't working for me, and these are my problems, and I'm willing to work on it if you are, but this isn't healthy for me right now. Hopefully you would have somebody to tell you and give you that dialogue how to say it, because a lot of us don't have that dialogue and know how to say it. Or if you're in a fight mode, you can say, I regret my behavior and I want to do better. And, would you like to help me with this? Are you on board with us getting better to where we communicate better? And they may say no. And then you get to accept, well, do I think I can stay here and deal with this? Do I feel like I'm okay to work on this all by myself? Same with freeze mode. You're going to have to come up and be able to use your words, because people won't know your needs, and you probably don't even know your needs. So you really need some help so that you can find your needs, because I was in that mode. When I went through flight, fight, and freeze, most of the time I would be in freeze mode, and that involves numbing yourself and just hoping that it will get better. And that's what we did as children, right? Is that we couldn't do anything as children, so we just hoped it would get better. But sometimes it just doesn't get better, and it's not going to unless we assert ourselves. Assert and aggression are two different things. So when I tell you need to assert yourself, it's just learning the language on how to speak to another person to see how to find yourself. You may have to tell a person, look, I've gotten buried under all of this. I don't even know who I am anymore, and I'm willing to work on it if you are. And if they are, then that's great. Again, all these scenarios, you have to be able to distinguish and not be rage-filled and upset if they say they're not willing to work on it. It doesn't mean that that there's something wrong with you. It just means that they're just not willing to work on it. See, and that's letting go of old tapes too, because people tend to think if somebody's not willing to work on something that it has something to do with them, with the person who's asking. But it doesn't have to do. Getting healthy is an inside job. Nobody else can get healthy for you. So you have to do it yourself. And if another person chooses that they don't want to get healthy or to follow you on that path, then you have to just wish them well and let it be and go on. It's not going to serve you or them to be continuing to do this, although some people do. And, I had grandparents that did that, and they lived together for a long time. They, had their drama and chaos all their lives. And some people are going to live that way, but they will probably have health problems like my grandparents had too. So, your inner health will manifest outwards if you're living in this kind of situation. So that's why I try to provide these videos for you, is to get you some clarity, because my goal is for you all to be able to come to a place of unity and not division. Even if you have to separate, you don't have to be on a divided character about my team and this team, because that's high school stuff. You just need to be able to be grown up about this. And so I try to help y'all be unified rather than divided, because it's my goal to bring you information and to raise your consciousness if you're willing, to be able to. I try to give y'all valuable, soul-felt, down-to-earth information that you can relate to. So I hope that this has been able to do that for you, and that you'll use those three things. Remember, first off, you need to breathe before you do anything. To get in the moment, I suggest you take 10 deep breaths. Then you ask yourself, am I feeling like I'm in flight, fight, or freeze mode? And then you respect the other person. You just stop what you're doing. You respect that other person, because I can't tell you to respect them before you do the breathing, before you realize what's going on, because you're blaming them. So you got to respect yourself and that other person, so that you don't have to apologize for behaviors, reactions later, that you can really start healing yourself. And then when the healing part is that you decide then that you're going to feel the feelings you were trying not to feel, the feelings you were trying to defend, the feelings you were trying to run away from, and the feelings you were trying to shut down. And when you're able to do that, and to have a healthy person with you to help you go through that process, then you can make the decisions about, should I stay or should I go? And you can do it with integrity. Because when people just try to run off, I try to tell them, no, because that's not going to change the behavior if they run away and come back. I want them to be certain with themselves, not to second guess themselves. So that's what I do when I'm working with people, is to have them not second guess themselves, not to react. That doesn't mean that they're not going to set boundaries. That doesn't mean they're not going to use their big boy and girl words. It just means that we're going to come to a place as respectful as we can as adults and make adult decisions and not based on those pain bodies as children. So, I hope this has been helpful, and I look forward to talking to you again next week. If there's a certain topic you would like me to talk about, please list it in the comments or instant message me. You can find me at Stacey Reineck on most of the social medias, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And as you know, I'm Stacey Reineck at Gmail is my email, and I'm staceyforlife.com. So, with all that being said, if you have anything you'd like to talk to me about or anything like that, please reach out to me. I've been trying to help people. I'd be willing to give you 20, 30 minutes of my time to help you process whether you're going through flight, fight, or freeze mode. Because we are all in this together, and I hope that when we're able to come back out, I don't know what the world's going to look like. If it looked like it did before we came in, we weren't all in this together. So I hope that when we come out, that we do remember that we still are all in this together, no matter whether everything's great out there or whether it's scary, that we're still all in this together. So with that being said, I wish you much peace and love, and I'll see you next week.